Food is just fuel. It doesn't really affect your brain or mood. That's the myth almost everyone quietly believes, and it is completely wrong in ways most people never hear about. The food you eat is not just going to your waistline. It is literally changing how you think, feel, remember, and even who you become over time. In other words, your daily menu is also a daily brain experiment, whether you realize it or not. For decades, the popular idea was simple. As long as you get enough calories, some protein, and a few vitamins, your brain will pretty much run the same. People thought mental health, focus, anxiety, even memory were about willpower, personality, or just genetics, while diet was treated like a side note. That belief is powerful because it feels convenient. It lets people say, "My mood is just my mood. My food is just my food," and move on. But here's where it gets interesting. When researchers started looking closely at what people eat and how their brains function across childhood, adulthood, and old age, the patterns were too big and too consistent to ignore. The brain is one of the hungriest organs in the body. Even at rest, it uses a huge share of your daily energy. The fats you eat become part of the fatty insulation wrapped around your neurons. The carbohydrates you eat change how steadily your brain receives glucose, its primary fuel. The micronutrients and antioxidants in your meals help protect brain cells from damage and support the growth of new connections. So when someone lives on heavily processed foods, sugar-sweetened drinks, and saturated fats, the brain doesn't just shrug and carry on over time. It starts to show it in mood, focus, and even structure. This isn't just wellness talk or trendy brain food marketing. It shows up in hard science facts, in brain scans, in blood tests, in long-term studies tracking people's diets for years, and then measuring how well they think, learn, and remember. One of the surprising truths is how early this starts. In children, the brain is building new cells, wiring trillions of connections, and laying down myelin, the fatty coating that helps signals travel quickly. A diet rich in whole foods, healthy fats, and nutrients supports that growth, while a pattern high in processed snacks, sugary drinks, and low-quality fats is linked to more inflammation and poorer cognitive performance. It doesn't mean a single candy bar ruins a childhood, but it does mean that the everyday pattern of food becomes the everyday pattern of brain development. But this is the part most people never hear. Those same patterns continue through adulthood. What you eat in your 20s, 30s, and 40s is quietly linked to how sharp your thinking and memory are in your 60s and 70s. Studies following people over time show that dietary patterns similar to Mediterranean-style or brain-focused diets, lots of vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, nuts, olive oil, and fish are associated with better preserved brain volume, slower cognitive decline, and lower risk of dementia. On the flip side, so-called Western patterns with frequent fast food, processed meats, refined grains, and sugary drinks are associated with more inflammation and a higher risk of cognitive problems. Here's the twist almost everyone gets wrong. People often assume food only matters if it causes a deficiency, like not getting enough vitamin B12 or iron. But modern misunderstood science is showing something subtler and more powerful. It's not just the absence of nutrients, it's the long-term presence of inflammatory stochand, low-quality foods that shifts the brain's environment. Think of it as the difference between a clean, well-watered garden and one that is constantly exposed to smoke and weeds. Both might still grow plants, but one will struggle, get damaged more easily, and age faster. Your brain is living in the soil your diet creates. Deep inside the brain, certain nutrients directly affect molecules that help neurons grow and connect. Healthy fats from fish and some plant sources help maintain cell membranes and communication. Antioxidants from colorful fruits and vegetables help reduce oxidative stress, the slow rusting process that can damage cells. Some nutrients influence growth factors often described as fertilizer for the brain, helping with plasticity, learning, and repair. When your diet is chronically poor, those systems don't just turn off, but they become less efficient. Over years, that can show up as lower resilience to stress, more brain fog, and greater vulnerability to mental health issues. Now, this is where researchers were stunned. The connection between your gut and your brain turned out to be far more intimate than anyone expected. Your intestines host trillions of microbes, creating a living ecosystem known as the gut microbiome. These microbes feed on the fiber and compounds in your food and, in return, produce substances that can influence inflammation, hormone levels, even neurotransmitters linked to mood. A large portion of the body's serotonin, a key player in mood regulation, is produced in the gut. When your diet consistently feeds beneficial microbes with fiber-rich vegetables, fruits, whole grains, fermented foods, it helps support a healthier gut environment. When your diet is dominated by ultra-processed foods, low fiber, and high sugar, it can shift the microbiome toward patterns linked to higher inflammation and worse mental health. This is not an urban legend or hidden history. It's a rapidly growing field, sometimes called nutritional psychiatry. Here's where it gets interesting again. Food doesn't just influence long-term brain health. It can also change how your brain responds to food itself. Highly palatable, hyper-processed foods, those engineered combinations of sugar, fat, and salt, activate reward circuits in the brain in ways that overlap with other powerful reinforcers. Over time, this can nudge eating behavior toward more cravings, less satisfaction, and more difficulty stopping, even when you consciously want to eat better. So the myth that your brain is separate from what you eat breaks down completely. Your brain is both steering your food choices and being rewired by them in a constant loop. At this point, many people jump to a simplistic conclusion. So I just need to find a magic superfood for focus. Or cut out one evil ingredient, and my brain will be perfect. But this is the part most people never hear. Real science shows that no single miracle food saves your brain, and no single bad meal destroys it. It's the overall pattern, the daily rhythm of what you eat, that matters most. Broad patterns of eating rich and whole, minimally processed plants, healthy fats, and quality proteins tend to support better brain function and mood. Patterns heavy in refined sugars, saturated and trans fats, and ultra-processed products tend to push things in the other direction. And here's the twist almost everyone gets wrong. The effect of food on your brain isn't only one way. Your brain state also affects what you choose to eat. When you're sleep-deprived, stressed, or emotionally worn out, your brain's reward and decision-making systems shift. You become more drawn to quick, energy-dense options, even if you know better. That means if you feel stuck in a loop of low mood and unhealthy eating, it's not just a lack of discipline, but a biological feedback cycle. The hopeful part is that even small, consistent shifts in diet can begin to nudge that cycle in a better direction. Another misunderstood science point is timing and expectation. People assume, if food mattered, I would feel it instantly, like a caffeine hit. In reality, some effects are subtle and cumulative. Better blood sugar stability, reducing energy crashes. Lower inflammation, improving how clearly you think. More supportive nutrients, helping your brain repair itself over months and years. Other changes can come sooner than you think, like improved energy or less brain fog after making sustained changes for a few weeks. But since these effects are gradual and not as dramatic as a stimulant, they often get dismissed, and the myth that food doesn't affect my brain survives. Think about the irony. Many people will accept that diet can reshape their body over years, but struggle to accept that it can reshape their mind and emotions over the same timescale. In reality, every meal is a tiny vote for the kind of brain you're building. The most surprising truths in this story are not about exotic nootropics or secret ancient herbs. They're about how ordinary foods, berries, leafy greens, beans, nuts, fish, fermented foods, whole grains slowly help build a brain that is more resilient to stress, better at learning, and more protected against decline. Now this is where researchers were stunned once more. when people with depression or cognitive decline shifted toward healthier dietary patterns in controlled studies. Some showed measurable improvements in symptoms, even when nothing else in their life was dramatically different. Diet was not a cure-all, but it was a real lever, a missing piece in how we think about brain health. Instead of seeing mental health and cognition as totally separate from lifestyle, more scientists are treating them as deeply intertwined. So what is the myth-busting conclusion? The idea that food is just fuel and has nothing to do with how you think and feel is one of the most damaging misconceptions in modern life. Your brain is built from, powered by, and constantly reshaped through the food you eat. That doesn't mean you need perfection or that one burger ruins your mind. It means that over months and years, your regular eating pattern becomes the chemistry of your thoughts, the stability of your moods, the sharpness of your memory. The unexpected truth is that by changing your plate, you are slowly, quietly changing your mind. Food is not just a lifestyle choice. It is brain architecture in disguise. Knowing that, the question is no longer does what I eat affect my brain? But given that it does, what kind of brain do I want to build, starting with my next meal? What myth should I break down next?